Good morning, friends. Good morning, audience. So today is a follow-up. First, my soul, Amina, Salma, Yuman, Zaid, Noor, and Hannah. Amina, Salma, Zaid. Amina, Salma, Yuman, Zaid, Noor, and Hannah. Sorry, Amun. You're my soul. So today, I'm gonna do something history. So write it down, mark your calendar. There are things that were brought into this world that were very detrimental to humanity. One is steroid. Oh, that's bad. Two is that the industrial fertilizer, ammonia, nitrate, ammonium, or whatever it is, that can also explode. Three, antibiotics. That's pretty bad. Four, number of other things, including Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs came, and rest in peace, Steve Jobs. He made something that could be used either for good or evil, and it has been misused, heavily with unconscious, subconscious, and so on, and propagation of bad things and so on. But it's used for good things as well. And a number of other things, right? Like smoking, for example, and so on. Now, there's not much I can do about a few things, except one thing. Today, I'm going to do away with antibiotics, right? I have made a discovery of a natural supplement, a natural compound that basically destroys bacteria, and bacteria cannot develop resistance to it. Period. Mark your calendar. You may say this is a big claim, and you're boasting about something that is nearly impossible, especially you, computer guy, engineer who has never been in labs or studied biology and so on. Well, I studied some biology in high school, and here and there, maybe when I took my GED. So I remember studying some of that in 29 days. So I studied the material in 29 days and committed for my test, and I took the GED. But outside of that, really, I don't know much biology or chemistry for that matter, or outside of high school and this particular time of taking, acquiring GED. GED is General Equivalency Diploma. That's like if you don't have a high school, you can go and get the GED, and later in life, and that suffices for high school. That said, yes, I'm going to do away with antibiotics. Some may like it, some may don't, especially for those commercial use, those who produce commercial production of antibiotics and so on and so forth. But I will, and in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and inshallah. So inshallah, I will make that history today. But before that, let me report on my last video when I decided to take my minerals and supplements and on an empty stomach and drink a lot of water so as to pass it through into my intestinal tracts, right? My intestinal tract. Things changed so much, and I was testing for about a month, and then I thought I would let it out just in case, because it seems to me to be a big breakthrough, right? A very substantial and meaningful breakthrough. So I published it, and today I'm going to report on it. Number one, my memory improved. I never have those debilitating, those wicked headaches, right? Where my entire nervous system basically almost slows down to a halt, right? And I kept remembering my early days in California when I was 19 and 20 and so on. And it went on, but back then apparently it was pretty extensive. I mean, pretty strong and sharp. Like migraines maybe, but real bad migraines. And then I used to take extra strength Excedrin, 3 pills, and then that basically masked it, right? I was like, as if I was taking some kind of morphine or something like that, just to completely disregard the pain. So these bouts, which increased in the last few years, they're gone. Now it's been, what, 2.5 months since I started that practice, and works fine. Like I have none of those anymore. Now I don't take those supplements, the minerals and the vitamins and the omegas and so on. Every day now I take it every other day. Still works, So I'm gonna slow down. Maybe I don't know. I will test, right, and see what happens. But I'm sure people, doctors who know all this stuff know how much you need and when and so on. My balance has improved a great deal. I used to walk, right, 6 miles, but then sometimes I had that debilitating state of mind, that stifling situation, stifling feeling. And I always noticed I would meander on the sidewalks, not meander because my nervous system is failing. So it would go like to one side or another, and I would mostly to the right side, and I would correct it. My brain would correct it. Now I walk 8 miles, right, in one go, straightforward. Now I do weave between now and then, but that's due to the pavement being uneven, right? So weaving and meandering is no longer there, and that's spontaneous, like reflexes. Meaningly, my brain now, unconscious brain, which usually controls our movement, right, is getting better material, right? It's getting better, like minerals and vitamins and nutrition and whatever it is. Now, the raw material that we're drinking or ingesting may not be the final product. It could be the catalyst, because the brain and other parts of our body do manufacture actually organic compounds. So it may be using it, it may be it, but that did it for me. One more thing, few more things actually. These few more things, my Chinese neighbors, they're Chinese Jews. You don't believe it? They are. They walk out. So, anyways, back to our. I used to walk, and I would feel sometimes diabetic. I'm not officially diabetic, right? I don't have official diabetes, but between now and then I have a sugar problem. My sugar problem sometimes, that when I'm walking, I begin to shiver, right? Because I knew, and deep down inside, without thinking about it, my brain told me this has to do with sugar, right? One day, to the degree that I was taking my 6 miles walk, and when I was coming back, I would say mile 4, I was in so much shape. I was basically really, visibly shaking and shivering. There was a restaurant across the sidewalk right there, and then I just went in and ate, and I felt a little bit better, or much better, and then came home. That improved. Now on fasting, this is Ramadan. I walked 8 miles, right? And I haven't eaten in what, like 12 hours to 14 hours, right? Because I don't wake up in the morning for suhoor, so I eat last, maybe 12, maybe before that, and then I go to sleep, and then that's it until the next day. Being single, of course, and away from the community. So now I walk 8 miles and my stomach has been empty for what, like 12, 14 hours? I don't feel a thing. So that apparently, the need for my all these compounds, all these minerals, all these vitamins, and now they're going into the brain. The brain is able now to organize or have a better control, fine grain control over my functions, pancreatis or liver or whatever it is. Now it's because the brain really, we are our brain. It's consciously controlling everything. So that's pretty big news, right there and then. Like I said, memory has improved a great deal, but it's not like I became a computer, right? I can notice short-term memory, right? And other memories. Sometimes I used to go like to the kitchen wanting to do something, and I would forget in the kitchen what it is I want to do. Now I'm recalling much more than that, right? My vision has improved. Now I take my walk outside. It used to be like if I took my glasses off, my right eye here is where I need like thicker glass, right? Higher grade of glass. Now I take off my glasses and walk the 8 miles. I'm fine. I'm doing fine, right? Now, it's not like it recovered 100%, but it greatly improved. And one thing, I personally never, I recall I never had morning breath, right? But I did a little bit, right? That disappeared, right? But that's not all. And there are other things as well. So 2.5 months, now I have concluded that that particular thing that I expressed before is now ingesting these minerals and blah, blah on an empty stomach. Now they're not going to waste, meaning I used to go pay $20 for that 50 plus bottle, 1 plus or Nature Made or from A to Zinc and Centrum or something like that. And there are a number of them. I used to buy like different ones. I think whenever I paid $20 for that bottle, it just went down the toilet, basically, because it was really never ingested. Ever since I began on that practice of empty stomach, and now I grind the minerals, right? All these pills that I buy, and like a whole batch of them, I grind them like fine. I bought like a grinder, and sometimes I use like mortar, right? Those like big dish with a handle that you crush things in it, and a lot of water. Things worked out just fine. Now I'm like a different human being now. Let's put it this way. Now that apparently also increased my immunity. My immunity is dramatically increased, drastically and dramatically increased. I can feel it. But that's not our subject today. The subject today is having the substitute for presenting the substitute for antibiotics, right? I'm going to do away with antibiotics, period. This is copyrighted. The method is copyrighted. Now, it's a natural compound, but not 100% natural. You have to do certain, subject that natural compound to a certain process, if you will. So I'm going to explain that. And like I say, it's copyrighted. It proves to be a good thing. Like I'm saying here, history today, and I'm sure I tested, right? I tested myself. I hope to retain commercial use of it. So that's that. And here I'm gonna stop here. And continue a little bit later. Okay, continuing. So now I wanna narrate to you a certain history that I know of. They say there's this Englishman in a lab who discovered the fungus antibiotic, right? I don't want to accuse the man of lying, but that's, like antibiotics, fungus being antibiotics, or, like kills bacteria and so on, was known before. I'll give you a little bit of history on that. So the Arabs knew that. So they used a certain plant and added olive oil to it and then stored it, right? And then that developed fungus, like fungus on top of the like the solution, right? The olive oil and that certain plant. And then that is used actually to cure certain inflammations or scum, like, or something like this. I'll give you an example. One day I was doing ding dong ditch, right? Right? So I was running outside this small street, and there's a motorcycle, so we kind of collided, like a human being collide with moving motorcycle, and we both flew in the air, right? Anyway, I got a wound on my knee, right on the knee, like that kneecap and so on, and I can even, like, it was that big of a wound, and I can even see the bones at that point. And they took me to the hospital. Those who were around, they took me to the hospital, and the doctor turned out to be a relative of mine, distant relative. And she looks at me and says, "Oh, Sama, what are you doing here?" Like she was in the ICU. So she sewed my wound, stitched my wound, and sent me home. And she kept prodding me and reprimanding me while she was like stitching me. I don't want to say her name, but her brother is also a doctor who was married to an Irish lady, and he and his offsprings are in Ireland, right? He was a doctor too. So, anyways, she was a nice woman and relative, and so on. So now, after that he developed, became like a bowl, and that bowl had some kind of a fluid and scum in it. You push it from one side, the thing moves to the left, from the left to the other side. And I remember my father took me into to a doctor, and he says we have to insert a needle and siphon off all that scum and fluid and so on, and we need to do that. But my father said, no, don't worry about it. And he used that substance, and sure enough, within a day or two, it was gone, right? It killed it that much. The other thing is, I had another relative who had prostate. I don't know what to call it, but he was no longer able to urinate, right? And then he went to supposedly Beirut, the American University in Beirut, or hospital or something like that, and they gave him pills that were, I remember when I was there, like in junior high. That's a long time ago. I don't know, 50 years ago or so. They were very expensive, and they helped him but a little bit. So my dad took that substance to him and said, why don't you use this? And then he dismissed him with ridicule, like, we're paying like 100 lira. Back then that was what, like $10, $20 for a pill. Back then, that's a lot of money, like for one pill. He says, I'm taking that. He says, why don't you try it? Finally, he consented. He was his brother-in-law. He consented and said, okay, just leave him here, and then I will see what happens. Apparently, the man brooded or pondered a little bit, and then he used it, and sure enough, turned out to be like a magic cure, right? He said no sooner, like within the hour or so, than I used it, he was basically, his urinal tract was cleared, right? I don't know what it was, but apparently there's some kind of swelling or inflammation that blocked the urinal tract. I don't know what it is, but I remember that was a miracle. Now that I know for certain that it has olive oil, acidic olive oil, has peroxide in it, naturally occurring peroxide. So when you rub it on the skin, apparently the peroxide gets absorbed, and that apparently does away with so many bad things, right? Peroxide is not easily handled by, or not, bacteria and other things do not tolerate it. But that compound was only used superficially on the surface, right? On the surface, right? How do you know the olive oil has peroxide in it? Is if you take it raw, right, uncooked raw, it'll start burning your throat. If it does, then that has peroxide in it, and peroxide is pretty good, right? So we know that that plus the fungus that grows on it, on the plant itself, which is found in Syria, right? That was used, and now that's not the only thing. The Kurdish people, the Kurds in northern Iraq and Syria. Now Syria has, like Syria and this area, Kurds and Arabs, they're so mixed up, right? But the Kurds in the olden days used to use something else. They used to have like a wet bread, right? So the wet bread, the unused bread, and then that bread becomes grows, fungus or fungicide grows on that bread, right? And what they used to do is sniff on it if you have like a disease, if you're sick or have a cold or something. So the Kurds knew about that and they used it, and that apparently improved the health of the person who's sick, like whether it's cold or influenza or whatever it is, they used it actually. So the Kurds used that antibiotic, that that fungus as antibiotic, the fungus that grows on bread, and their only way of administering that is really by sniffing on it. Sometimes they ate it and it worked out just fine, but the Kurds get credit for that. While we're at it, this is outside of the subject. I want to mention that if you are aware of apricot, right? Apricot is the fruit, and some of it, the ones that you buy here in the United States, they're not bad, but not as tasty or sugary as those you get like from back home. We used to get it like it was pretty sugary and like, it's pretty tasty, right? The reason for that is here they water the tree. Back there they leave it alone, so it grows, becomes smaller, but it's very sugary. Now that, of course, outside of the subject, the Arabs brought to the West. But back then, it used to be called Armenian apple. The Arabs called it Tufah al-Arman, or Armenian apple. And they brought it into the West. How did the name change into apricot? And in Arabic now it's called mishmish. I don't know, but that is an Armenian proprietary. People got it from Armenia. So it's called Armenian apple. Okay, now back to our subject here. So yeah, antibiotics have been used before, so it's not a new discovery. I don't know, maybe he discovered it coincidentally, like he didn't know. Some people discover things not knowing it's there or whatever it is. I'm a righteous person, I know one thing that I know a lot of people disregard. If you are seeded with knowledge, you have to spread it. But if you take it from somebody else and assume it for yourself and like try to capitalize on it and deprive the original party of it, he will come after you. You can trust me on that. Anyways, that's not our subject. So now back to our, I'm going to take a little break here and then back to our antibiotic replacement. So I'm going to begin by a story of how I arrived at this discovery. It wasn't a proactive thing. I discovered it as I went along in life, and it works fine for me. I knew this a while back, actually. The good thing about this discovery, this antibiotic, is that it stays within the body, right? Meaningly, it doesn't kill anything outside. So now I know, for example, I told you about the guts, right? The bacteria and, the fungus too, right? And so on. And whatever it is, that if you take antibiotics, you're going to disturb that area, right? And that's extremely crucial for our brain. That material that comes from the guts, plus whatever you ingest, minerals and so on, are used for building the brain, and as well as the fuel to do what it needs to do, like to function, to signal and transfer signals, and it's pretty darn complex. Anyways, so that substance doesn't go outside. The one I discovered doesn't go and kill the bacteria within the guts. It doesn't do that, actually. Whatever is, my discovery goes like this: whatever that compound does, it kills the bacteria and so on within. If it is on the surface, on the skin, or outside of the bloodstream, it doesn't do anything about it. Two, like I said, I discovered that throughout my testing, and I've been testing for quite a few years on this, and I arrived at a certain conclusion, right? Testing, like actual real testing, right? That bacteria never develops immunity to it. Never. Number two, I have no way of testing on viruses. That particular compound or solution or substance, I was unable to test on on viruses, right? Because I don't have viruses myself, and but I have a feeling I cornered those viruses as well with that solution, but I have no way of testing. But I do believe that it will also destroy viruses. Uh, like those persistent and obstinate viruses, such as simplex A, such as herpes and whatever. I don't know, but I am certain on the within my heart that I also got viruses with that solution as well. Uh, there is something I want to tell you. Viruses are important to our lives. So this solution I'm going to present to you as antibiotic, it's good to take it between now and then. Now, if you no longer want to have kids, right, or cannot have kids, I take it every day, right? Nobody sees it. I will tell you about it. But if you're having children, take it only when you need it really, or maybe once a week or something like that, because it's really potent. I mean, it's really potent. I mean, it kills bacteria with vengeance and high speed, right? I mean, no longer than you use that substance, it goes away, right? Bacteria dies like within hours. As soon as that substance flows in the blood, uh, 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 it basically starts killing bacteria and fast, right? I mean, it really does away with it. Okay, so take a break and then I'll come back and begin on that substance. Again, this is copyrighted. Okay, here we go. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So in 1991, I was here in the US, right? I was here in the US on February 11th in 1981 already. But in 1991, after being married for like, I don't know, 2.5 years or so, and I had 2 children back then, my oldest 2, things weren't going well, although I began on computers back then, but nothing really materialized. So we were consulting with relatives back home. I couldn't go back home to Syria. Syria is, people think Syria went downhill like 11 years ago during the demonstrations and so on, and that animal in Damascus, and his crew, right, started murdering millions and poison gas and so on. Things were bad back then. In 1982, they destroyed the whole city and so on. You don't hear about that. Why? Because Muslims, right? Muslims. Arabs, smart people. What works here is really the Arab. Never quits, right? Never. Even when you sleep, these people have it like, they just works all the time, right? So back to our subject. So we were offered the opportunity by relatives, of course, to come to Saudi, right? Saudi, try our luck and so on and so forth. And we went there, right? But for 2.5 years, it was right after the Gulf War, or the Kuwait War, when Iraq came into Kuwait and then they were ejected. So we went there. Apparently, I noticed things were high and dry. I mean, I tried myself like hard, right? And I found a job with a certain man from the same city where I come from, Homs, right? And he gave me a job, and I excelled in computers, right? I remember working in that project of King Khalid Airport, right? But things weren't going well, really. Whatever you make, it's no different from here, really. It's when you have a menial job. So whatever you made, you really spent on rent and food or whatever it is. So it was hopeless, with kids and so on. And then we had a third child back there. That's number 3, Yamuni, right? So anyways, and then I decided, just things weren't working, right? We're gonna have to, going to Syria is out of the question, right? Just because I am a Sunni and not actively against, that regime, but, I wasn't friend of that regime and really didn't do much about it. But just the mere fact you're a majority Sunni, you're on the chopping block, right? Those sickos that now runs the country by help from Israel, right? So, anyways, being protected by them, Obama and Biden and Trump and what's his name? Whose daddy needs the lizard eye cabal of Houston and Iran. Oh, whole world of slew. You know, sometimes when I have an idea like this, I hate to put it or publish it or disclose it because I'm maybe helping those evil people. But then I look and there's like a whole humanity that is good, right? And you know, what can I do? So eventually I do. Again, this is copyrighted. So in I think it was end of 1993, I just basically sent the ex and the children home, back home to Syria. And then I prepared to come back here to United States. But there was about a month or two, or maybe 3 months time until I got myself a ticket and you know, airplane ticket. And then I was going to come back here, right? And I still wasn't a citizen. I was only on green card back then. Uh, uh, And then I used to take my walks again. And then it was pretty darn hot back there. Pretty darn hot. I mean, you really have to cover your hair, right? Your head and drink water. Never Coke or anything else because that will only make you more thirsty. But one day I was walking and my typical life as here, you know, morning shower, whatever you do at work, and then take a walk or, you know, so I used to walk. One day, as I was walking, and it was in the slums of Riyadh, right? You know, in the eastern side, I believe, of Riyadh. Yeah, I think so. And then I was walking, and here there are like all kind of hardworking people who come there and save whatever little and send home, and you know, from Sudan and from Egypt and from Syria and you know, you name it, right? So I used to walk there, and sometimes I eat right from their fast food and so on. But one day, as I was walking, I don't know what happened. I put my finger behind my ear, and I felt something pretty bad, right? It was like a scummy thing, you know, like some kind of a mush behind my ear, right? And it was, I would say, about half an inch, and it was thick, right? So I pulled it down, and it began to exfoliate and peel off like some kind of a like flour or something like that. So I cleaned it up, and I didn't know where it came from. You know, I had my shower at home, and so I thought, you know what? You never know. Maybe it's some kind of a bug. Maybe it's, I don't know what it was. But I cleaned it up, and then I realized that after I cleaned it up, that the skin was a little bit lacerated, right? Just behind the ear here. Now, next day, as I went into the shower, there was a growth of that scum and mushy material, like dead skin or whatever it is, right? So I scratched it off with my finger, and sure enough, it cleaned. And I waited a little bit. That didn't go away, right? But I kept cleaning it every day, and it never really spread anywhere, except here and then on the right side of the ear. And now here is a very important thing. Right side and left side are not equal in immunity. So that said, I kept watching it, and you know, it stayed there. Eventually, I learned or gotten used to it, accustomed to, you know, like it being there. But I acquired the habit of scratching it off and cleaning it, you know, like, and put, you know, clean it with soap after I scratched it off in the shower and so on. You know, it was there, right? But it really never spread. I never knew where it came from. I really did, right? Whether it's from bed or I don't know. I really didn't know. What it was, I didn't know, but it kept like, it was active. Now, I noticed in the summer, it flares out, right? Like in the summer, this thing, you know, like flares out, like it produces very scummy and mushy thing, you know, like probably dead skin. That's what I think it is. Or the bacteria itself dying, you know, like, and I would scratch it off and it would go away. In the winter, if it's cold, you know, in the winter, it goes dormant, you know, it hibernates, right? I didn't know what it was. Now, in the right ear, it was there as well, but extremely small. So apparently my immune system was able to take care of it. I did not, back then, I did not suspect or know what it was. And what the difference between the two sides and so on. Well, now I know the difference between two sides because the brain prioritizes materials, right? And sometimes it even deprives, if it's short on certain material, right, that it needs, it prioritizes and even deprives one half of it, right? I don't know, but I don't know. That's something that, whatever I talked about earlier. So now back to our conversation and narration, right? And that stayed there. That basically stayed there. Sometimes, if the summer is hot and so on, and of course, in early 1994, late 1993, I sent the family home. And then in early 1994, I flew back into the United States. I remember that. And then later, the ex, like came with the 3 children, and we settled down back in Houston because we left Houston and then we came back to Houston. In 1997, I moved up here to Illinois. So now that thing stayed. So one day, we have insurance and all. So one day I went to this dermatologist. I thought, you know what? Guess what? I have insurance, right? And I'll just go, see what he says. So I went there in Bolingbrook. I don't want to say the doctor's name. Now I pass by and he's no longer there. He was old back then, but he's Vietnamese, right? And then he looked at it and inspected it with gloves, of course, and he said, that's eczema. I was like, okay, maybe eczema, that's what it is. So now he gave me some steroid ointment, or whatever it is. I used it. No good, right? In fact, it kind of exacerbated the condition, my condition. Now it began to hurt a little bit because apparently the steroid was so abrasive that it lacerated my skin behind the ear, right? And then eventually after that, I gave up, right? I was like, you know what? It's not a big deal. The second thing I want to say, it's not contagious, right? It didn't move anywhere on my body except just behind the ear. It really never left, right? And of course, I have children, and they never took it. It never really wasn't contagious. It really never spread anywhere outside behind that ear, and a little bit here, and sometimes here it would disappear altogether on the right ear. So that said, and then like I said, I live with it. Some people live with certain skin condition, but I truly believed at that point that it was eczema, right? That eczema wasn't going to go away. Eczema, right? Which is a skin rash or whatever it is. So now in 2017, I went back home to Syria, right? I just decided I'm going to push, right? So I went there. Now, when I went there, that is a police state. If you remember Stalin, this makes Stalin cringe in his grave to what these guys, that regime in Syria does, right? Oh, no. When I went there, whoever relatives were left in the city of Homs and my surrounding wanted, apparently immediately started their approach and handling of making me, subduing me, like you have to bow down to the Bashar the donkey, right? The president, not the president of Syria, but the president of his, the god of his Alawis and stuff like that. And I really refused to do that. So there was assassination attempts on my life, right? So to them back there in Syria, you bow down to that donkey, be his slave and his servant, and he is their god, right? And not the benevolent God, you live like donkeys, right? Your living is pretty poor. Kill and get killed and worship him, praise him and worship him and so on. Not that he's anything smart, he's just freaking donkey, right? He and his clan are a bunch of murderers, they don't understand anything, right? For them, this is the animal farm. It's a religion, really. It's a religion that they are trying to restore Animal Farm and appoint themselves as gods. And well, that's not our subject. So I went there, and then the first assassination attempt, although it almost did away with my life, it began that discovery process, the discovery of this compound. Strange, isn't it? I'll explain to you. So the assassination attempts were 3 times, right? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, right? After 11 months, I came back here, of course. I don't know why they let me go. Some people back there told me because I have a US passport. I don't think so, right? That they didn't really take me into those jails and so on. I don't think so. There's something else. But that's not our, there are other things, but that's not our subject. So one day, I received certain relatives from Lebanon, right? Uh, Supposedly came, those relatives I haven't seen in a long time. And along the way, they brought me some gifts, food, right? Food, like food. Because one told me that your relative's coming from Lebanon. And then I was looking for palm dates, right? I thought, I could use some palm dates from Arabia, right? Because the Arabian palm dates is like pretty large and, it's pretty high quality, right? So I thought if I got those, I could save the seeds and plant them in my farm. I had a farm there. It's destroyed and sacked and by, Zem, Bashar, Zagabai, and yeah, well, anyways. That said, next day, okay, so there was some palm days, but they were like cheap stuff, right? And I was like, you know what, that's not what I ordered. But nonetheless, there was a few other things, cheap stuff, like not really big deal. But among them, there was a box of German chocolate. Not German chocolate, the recipe that you have here in the United States, it's called German chocolate. No, a box with German, I remember the word Wunsch on it or something of the sort. I don't remember the name. And it has small chocolate pieces. And, back then I was famished, right? I wasn't eating anything because the country is downhill and they confiscated my money. I had a few dollars I brought down there and, they took that. Right there and then. I mean, they left me flat on the surface. They left me penniless, like they say. Do you remember Paul Newman? When he goes into that farm in the movie and they turn him upside down and shake him, and then like some loose coins fall out of his pockets and they collect it and they start laughing at him. That almost literally happened to me. I had like $1,300. I thought it would be enough for, I don't know, a year or two. And they basically shook me down and took everything else and threatened me as well. But lo and behold, when I failed to bow down to their God, that false donkey God, apparently they took a decision to really kill me. And that was pretty obvious to me. So next day, I was sitting on my balcony. I have a flat in the apartment, 5 rooms flat. And I invested because when I came here in 1994, I was working in computers and I started making good money. So I invested all my, I had money. And when September 11 happened, I thought we were going to be gathered in camps and lose everything. So I sent my money home and they bought me these things, right? Whatever I saved. And of course, that wasn't all because I had plans on, taking my family and go home. Life here in the US is pretty hard, it's painful for a lot of people, including those rich ones, right? It's not that simple. Life here is not as I know life to be when I was young in that city of Homs, that ancient city, and that religion and so on. So I couldn't go to sleep after I ate the whole box of chocolate, right? I sat on my balcony and I ate that whole German box of chocolate. I haven't had that kind of food in a long time. And then, 10 o'clock p.m. and so on, I went to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep. And about, I would say 3 a.m., I felt as if there's a whole brick, right? Like those red brick, or even bigger, is on my left lower abdomen. Like as if a brick just was put in my lower left abdomen, right? It was like a brick. And then, I thought, maybe it's the food that I am constipated. And I kept going and pushing and. In the morning, I just couldn't go to sleep, right? In the morning, I go to the restroom again and urinate, right? I drink water and so on. And there, one of the plagues of that regime is electricity is scarce and bare, right? I don't know, 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, and the rest of the day, you're on your own, right? If any money comes from any resource in the country, it's stolen by those fax rabbi ayatollahs and Putin, Assad, and so on. Anyways, so you really have to live in an animal farm. So I looked, when there was some light, I looked, and lo and behold, I was urinating curdled blood. No. I wasn't urinating blood. I was urinating curdled blood. Curdled blood. Not just blood. You know, sometimes you urinate blood because there's some kind of um, hemorrhage or whatever it is, right? No. The blood, my urine was curdled blood. I can clearly see it, right? And the pain began to take effect. Like I would say about 9-10 hours later, I started feeling pain in my body, right? And that big brick was still here. When I saw that, I knew that was not constipation. Oh, no, by no means. So I gave it a little bit of thought, and I said to myself, listen, maybe there's some hemorrhage and maybe some injury, in my abdomen. And the first thing to do is really take antibiotic, right? As to prevent infection from happening. What if my large intestine has rupture, because like I told you, I'm feeling this very heavy brick here inside, right? And now the pain began and urinating curdled blood. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I didn't know what it was, but I went for, and there you can go to the pharmacy and buy antibiotics without prescription, right? You can just I need this and I need that. And sometimes the pharmacist would, you tell him, what's going on, and he'll say, take this, take that, right? So I still have even the boxes of that antibiotic. I still have them here, right? And I don't know what they were, but there were numbers like 500 and 1000. So these were the 500. I don't know what that is. Micro milligram or whatever it is. I don't know. I planned before this video bringing this and displaying it, but it was the really potent one. And then I started taking it, right? By noontime, about 10 a.m., my sister came, and sat down, on the couch, and I was laying on the other couch. I was moaning from pain. I mean, I can really bear pain, but that was wicked, like the pain in my entire body, as if I was dying, and I think my sister back then, she thought, that was it, this guy's gone, right? So my sister was there, but lo and behold, by noontime, I recovered. I was fine, doing fine again, clear urine and all that stuff. But I kept taking that antibiotic once a day. I think it was once a day or so. However, this has happened again, apparently on the same type of poison. Now, I didn't know what it was. Whether it was bacteria, whether it was, I thought it was more like chemicals, because the kidneys, received it first and started producing curdled blood and so on. I didn't know they were going to kill me or just totally disable me, put me on some kind of dialysis or something. This way they can control my movement, right? Those darn Netanyahu's Alawis of Syria, right? I didn't know what it was. I heard of arsenic, I heard of thallium, I heard of polonium. That's Putin's rat favorite poison against others, right? Those who oppose him, he sends them polonium. Not that he can withstand it himself and he will run like a rat if anything happens, right? But that's not our subject. I don't know what it was, really. Now, when I was taken, like I said, by noontime, I recovered. And I could clearly see there was around me, there was astonishment, like, oh, this guy recovered or something of the sort. I had no doubt it was that food that came from Lebanon. Now, who sent it to me? I don't know. Maybe that boar, like the black bristling hair pigs, like in the wilderness, like Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, or maybe his gods in Tel Aviv. I don't know. Somebody decided just, right? And then it worked, right? So I can clearly see the astonishment. People were looking and, especially those who brought the food, you can clearly see there's like concern on their faces and so on. Anyways, that's not the subject. I was walking just fine by noontime and slept that night. But what I did is kept taking that antibiotic. And I go into my shower again. Like I said, I would get like a bucket of hot water. It's not like here, like water flows in profusion, like automatic heat and so on. And I would wash myself, and in my bathroom. But lo and behold, when I was taking that antibiotic, that thing behind my ear almost completely went away. Darn it, that's bacteria. That's not eczema. And I knew right there and then this is bacteria. And I caught that on that. Now, when the antibiotics ran out, I stopped taking it, this thing came back, right? So apparently, it either has immunity to antibiotic or it is the kind that doesn't go away. And it's really the latter one, the kind that you cannot just kill. And lo and behold, believe me, it has intelligence. Okay, we'll continue. So I knew that. So in that moment of assassination and hopelessness, and I really myself, when I was like laying on the couch, I thought I was gonna die. I thought this is it. Maybe I came here. Allah drove me here. Flew me here just to die. But that's what they will do if you refuse to bow down for that donkey of theirs, and if you refuse to accept him as like total master, like master of a dog, and you're not going to be treated like a dog, even worse, right? They kill you. That's and simple, and that's what Putin and Obama and Ayatollah and Netanyahu support, right? That's their work. That's what's coming to your way, you Europeans. That's what Putin is. When takeover is complete, he will show his true nature, and then you will realize the horror that you put yourself into and that you allowed into your own society. But back to our subject. So that was concluded. Now I am armed with this knowledge here. I thought, you know what? Maybe antibiotic will do it, right? And then it came back to its normal habit. I would scratch it and behind my ear, and like in the morning I would clean it up, but the skin would still be lacerated, right? There's that cut in the skin, right? Looking like skin, and then if you touched it, it just barely hurt. Like you'd feel like a burning sensation, right? But I came back to my habit again because it's been like 1994 through 2017. This being here, I came back to my habit and didn't care about it anymore, cleaning it every day and so on. The assassination attempt happened again, same thing, because one day I went to my food, into my fridge, and not much really, some yogurt and falafel and whatever, street food. And then got same thing that night, but much lighter, because apparently my body now realizes that's what's coming and countered it completely. They have access there, the security forces. Your apartment is just for your living. They have access to it day and night. Once you leave, they enter, do what they want to do, and leave, right? Every apartment, except the few. That's the clan or cabal that runs the country, that belongs to Tel Aviv and Tehran and Moscow and Washington and here and there. These are the forbidden area. This is like the forbidden area of Stalin, right? That his private room. That's them. Otherwise, if you're a Sunni or even others, right? They have this devil-given right? They devil-given right to enter your apartment and mess your life and bug you and assassinate you and so on. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you have to bow down. Anyways, so it happened again, but it was that. So I survived. I remember that. I survived that very quickly. The third time around, I was invited to a wake of a relative, right? An old relative died, and then I went to the wake, and in the wake, it was in a mosque. They would come and give you some coffee, right? And then you would pray and for the deceased, and read some Quran and so on. And I remember after drinking that coffee, nobody else drank that coffee. There were quite few, right? Including some, what we call despotic scholars, right? These are the scholars that pretend to be like scholars, but they're really, that's part of the intelligence system, modern intelligence system. They pretend to be your leader and guide and so on. So I drank that, but nobody else did, right? And then on the way home, I began to shiver as if I have some this feeling is weird, whether it's like diabetes or I don't know what it was. I mean, I was like shivering, right? But it didn't last long. My body recovered in a couple of hours. Anyways, last attempt of my life was I was in my farm, and it was like the fence was stolen and destroyed by the regime forces, right? And it's about 2 acres prime land. At one point, it was like worth $1 million, right? Uh, uh, and now it's wasteland, like it's no man's land. And then I hear a gunshot pop, but before that, in a split second, I can hear the whistle of a bullet passing by my ear, psst, and then the pop came. I didn't run really, because I thought if Vaughn die, I'll just die. Right? But even turned my back, I was like, this may not be advisable. Just walk away, right? This is not courage. So I walked away, and eventually, not too long after that, I came to the United States. Now, I didn't really do much about that, right? That bacteria that really settled here behind my ear. And as usual, it was always there. It flares out in the summer, goes a little bit dormant in the winter, not 100%, but I mean, it kind of freezes in the winter. And I am a coffee drinker, right? And then lo and behold, I drank a lot of coffee, but that didn't really make much. I mean, to me, drinking coffee, although I knew it was good for the body, but it didn't really do much, right? That is still going on, and so on. But then I don't like buying coffee from the market, so I started brewing my coffee here, right? And lo and behold, that's where I made my discovery, right? The coffee I make here basically killed that bacteria right there and then, right? Them Arabs, qahwa, right? You may say, this is from Ethiopia. Well, number one, that's not true. The Arabs, it's like Southwest Arabia. But if it was from Ethiopia, in the ancient times, still is now, here's something for you. East of the Nile, that was always considered Arabia, east of the Nile. And after the appearance of Islam, before the appearance of Islam, North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, like Nigeria, Niger, Mali, and all these countries that are sub-Arab countries in the Africa, these are Arabs. East of the Nile are Arabs. No, they are really Arabs. And North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are Arabs. The southwest of Africa to the south, that's original black, right? That's original African. And they have, now, if you ask me about the genetic material of humanity, we all hover on the same level, right? Some of us have predilections and habits that are different from others. But at the end of the day, Arabs, Turks, Europeans, and when I say the Arabs, that includes North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa and east of the Nile, right? And Egypt and Sudan now, of course, and India and, and Southeast Asia, they're all on the same level of genetic makeup and complexities, right? Some of us have like shitty genetics, right? The Jewish genes are, oh man, they're shitty. No, just joking. But why am I saying this? It's the West African to South African, right? From South Africa to West Africa, all the way to the Sub-Saharan Africa. Those blacks, and these were the mean strand that came to the United States, them niggers, right? They actually have superior gene to everybody else. Niggers have like higher, not like astronomically better genes, but they definitely have superior genes. And their looks and their body and so on, they look different from the other African. Like I told you, the Ethiopians, East Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa and so on. They're like Arabs, they're like Europeans, they're like in their thinking and in their genetic makeup. But those West Africans to the South Africa, they have superior genes. Not astronomically, but they jump above the curve, right? You know, they jump above the curve of everybody else. So yeah, that they do have that, right? Anyways, back to our story here. Uh, so now, what is the cure that I found? That compound that basically kills bacteria, most likely viruses, right? Oh no, 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 no! It kills bacteria so bad that, like I told you, it just obliterates it on the inside, on the surface, like on the skin. It doesn't do much, right? انت قهوة have a drink. Anyways, but now you said, well, we all drink coffee. Well, so did I, right? For a long time, I used to go like subscribe for this Shell station coffee, like 30 days, you get any drink you want to. And I used to go like, and there's a grinder, Colombian coffee, roast, blah, blah, and you grind it. And guess what? I used to drink that strong one, right? Didn't do anything really for that particular legion of whatever it is, but bacteria. Why? How do I know? It was that assassination attempt when I used the antibiotics, right? And that killed it. I realized it was bacteria. But now, when I came here, I remember, you know, like I wanted to make my own coffee. I brew my own coffee, you know, like I don't know what's in there. So when I brew my own coffee, here's how I do it. If you boil, you know, in those drip grind coffee makers that you buy from the market, and the espresso and so on, what they do is pass steam or hot water over the coffee, right? And the taste of the water changes and it looks brownish now, right? To me, it was like, you know, that's not how we do it, you know, like that's not how I do it. So I started boiling the ground coffee, and ground coffee, like Turkish ground, right? Like really fine ground, right? I boiled it for 1 hour. I didn't pass hot water over it, or I really boiled it for 1 hour. I mean, like it was boiling, not like being warm for 1 hour. No, no, no. It was boiling for 1 hour. And what I added to it is I brought some cardamom, or what we call hale or hal in Arabic, right? And then we peel it off, right? And then we ground the inside of it, right? The heart or the seed within the seed. And it's got really good taste to it, right? You know, like, and by the way, I think it got a lot of caffeine in it. And I mixed them together and I boiled them for about 1 hour. Lo and behold, when I started drinking that substance, and I drink like, I usually boil some every day, about this much, I don't know, 4 or 5 ounces, and then add like distilled water. Now I boiled the coffee with distilled water. Be careful of anything else. Distilled water, and what I did is store it in bottles, like those cork bottles, Swedish cork bottles. I think it's about a quart each. So I brewed about 10 quarts, and then I used maybe half of that, you know, maybe a quart or half a quart of ground coffee, fine ground coffee. And lo and behold, I began to notice, like it's my habit every day in the morning is to pass my finger on the back of my ear where that lesion is, and it's much less now, far less. And but although there was still skin or probably dead bacteria exfoliating, you know, every now, but it's far less. You know, I would like push it out and it's like whitish skin and it's very small, meaningly the lesion or the area, I would say about 10% of an inch or maybe half centimeter, right? You know, I would say half centimeter, you know, now, but it's much less, right? So I realized the coffee inside my body, the one that I am brewing, that I'm burning for about 1 hour, that's the difference. That's the process, is really. When you pass cold, hot water or steam over coffee, yeah, you're getting some in color, but apparently you're not getting much really. But when I boiled it is when what happened is either extracted some material in there, and you know, and that's what happened. Lo and behold, that's gone, right? Not 100%. So now I started drinking that oh man, the improvement is great. The most important point here, the obvious, right, is that there's no longer laceration. It's only now scratching the skin and it exfoliates, right? So I figured that's the dead bacteria and the skin, being, like perforated by the bacteria, and like it cleans up by itself. So I would like scratch it off and it comes off. So now I got smart. I was like, well, it does appear like this is doing the bacteria on the inside because the skin now is healed, right? But apparently the bacteria is living on the skin itself. So I got smart. So I went and got me a triple ointment, right? So as I was drinking that, I attacked this lesion with vengeance. I mean, every day I would like plaster it with triple ointment. To the degree that that triple ointment every day, like after a week or so, it lacerated the skin, like behind the ear altogether. Now I would even touch it, right? The thing wasn't there anymore, right? But I would touch the skin and it would burn, right? But lo and behold, I wasn't just smart. That thing was smart too. Instead of, it was like I said, on the skin, on the inside, I was fine. No longer the skin lacerated, but the triple ointment lacerated the skin. However, I realized that that lesion, the one I was applying triple ointment to, although it cleared it from that area, the lesion itself moved up behind the ear, just up behind the ear. I was like, wow, that's smart, man. It doesn't spread. It's like they're loyal to each other, right? Those bacteria. They're one like big like mafia clan or something. Or the clans of Scotland or Arab tribe or something like that, or the Cabal of Moscow. No, this is like the lizard eye Cabal of Moscow. They're smart. They knew that on the inside they can no longer grow and they're getting killed. And when that area of skin was being attacked by triple ointment, I swear to God, the whole lesion, half a centimeter, moved upward. I'm like, man, this is smart. And they never spread anywhere inside my body, nor they are, like I said, nor they are contagious, because like I had children, ex-wife, and I never seen it on anybody, so that's it. They never spread anywhere. So it's like the smart bacteria that basically stuck together, like they don't want to go anywhere, right? That said, I left it alone, right? And then, like I said, now the skin is healed and all, but it would still every 3 or 4 days I would put the scratch up on it like hard, and then it would peel off or exfoliate. I don't know, maybe about half a centimeter or even less than that now of whitish skin or something of the sort. So that's it, folks. The idea is to boil the coffee. Boil it for 1 hour. Boil it for 1 hour and store it in bottles, right? It's like wine, the more it ages. Now, I'm not finished, hold on. Apparently, either a new substance was created, a new compound or solution was created by the boiling process, or I am extracting more of something that was really never extracted if you just pass hot water or steam over coffee, right? So now, after a while, like I said, I would brew a batch of 10 quarts, right? And store them in bottle. I noticed something, that coffee in bottles that's stored, suddenly you would find like a white, slimy substance in it. Not spread, but like together, right? Like I would say, pen wide, this much. It's a slimy white substance. Where did that come from? I don't know. I still drank that, right? Doing just fine. So I ran out, one day I ran out of my batch and I didn't fix it for like a couple of days. Lo and behold, that thing came back, like lacerating again and as usual. And when I stopped the ointment, that lesion that was on the back of my ear, on the top of my ear, moved back to its original spot, right? So that's it. That's what it was, right? That's it. Coffee, boiled, hard-boiled coffee. Hard-boiled coffee, right? Now, I tried later without the cardamom, right? I thought maybe the compound of cardamom and coffee together, being boiled together, maybe producing a third element that is really the effective and potent compound that is killing the bacteria. No, coffee itself, I went same thing without cardamom, without hale, hal or hale. Works just fine for me. So, am I certain about this 100% that it is antibiotic, it kills bacteria, no matter what it is? I am 1000% positive that it does. I keep trying time and again, and that would go away, you know, like when I'm drinking, it stays on the surface. And when I leave that alone, it burrows deep into my skin, right? Did I do away with viruses? I haven't tested, but I think I'm confident that I did something there. So I have no way of testing. So while we were drinking coffee all this time, we were only coloring the water. So when you go to a coffee shop and drinking coffee, it's colored water. That's all there is to it with a different taste. But the actual substance of the coffee that really kills the bacteria was really never extracted, or maybe extremely small amount of it. Now, when I boiled it for 1 hour, all this material came about, right? You know, like was extracted or something else during the boiling process happened. That's antibiotics, new antibiotics. And I am certain, like I told you, when I miss it, that thing comes back. When I drink it again, you know, it goes away. So bacteria couldn't develop immunity. I'm going to take a break because I'm not done yet. Stay tuned. Something else happened. Okay, back again. So now, something happened. After I went to the practice of ingesting and drinking and administering those minerals and vitamins on an empty stomach, like I told you, my immunity has improved a great deal. But this discovery was even before that, much before that actually. I knew that was conclusive. The results of that very boiled coffee, that hard boiled coffee for 1 hour, that's conclusive. That's before I went about ingesting my minerals on an empty stomach for 1 hour or 2 hours with drinking a lot of water and so on, which increased my immunity. I told you my immunity has increased, but now some confusion settled in. After I started taking my trace minerals on an empty stomach with plenty of water, a lot of them, right? I made another batch of this coffee, right? Minus the cardamom, excluding the cardamom, or hale or hal. Now this time around, I hard boiled it for 2 hours. I could even smell the coffee grounds getting burned, right? And that's where the confusion is. Now the conclusion about the coffee, that process is concluded. Copyrights. Here, personal. That's it. I started drinking this hard-boiled coffee for 2 hours, right? Lo and behold, even the lesion on the skin went away. Now it's totally clean, has been for a little while now. My confusion here is this. Did my immune system increase so much or become restore itself that it began to devour, it devoured even the lesion on the skin itself? Possibility. Remember what I told you about the left side versus the right side? So apparently my immune system was trying to deal with that, and it was stronger on my right side than it is on the left side, right? And now I am confused. Like I said, this conclusion about the coffee is real. Have no doubt about it. Don't hesitate. If you use it for personal use, go ahead, you know. But now when I boiled this to 2 hours, it became stronger. I could feel it, you know, like it's very it's the taste of it is really, really, really. I mean, you really have to like coffee or be taking like bad medicine. You know, the taste of bitter medicine or something of the sort. Believe me, it just the whole thing went away. After what, since 1993 until now, it took that long to really find the cure and discovery that really basically did away with it, even on the surface of the screen. I really do not know whether it is the supplements that I'm taking now, which my brain needed, and then after it needed and rebuilt itself, and now it's got sufficient amounts or quantities of these minerals, of these vitamins, that it began to rebuild and spare enough of it for the immune system. Apparently, the brain plays a trick, right? It doesn't, itself is really the most important part. It never deprives itself of that conscious part that always stays. I mean, that's the last to go, right? But apparently, it provides for immunity as long as the immunity is like keeping you alive and walking and so on and so forth. But if there's enough, right, of that nuclear material, it provides the immune system as well. Now it has, like they say, it has plenty for all. Remember, you know, plenty for all. Now everybody can gorge themselves on, like minerals, and, compounds that it manufactures, and so it really, I mean, really, it becomes every part of our brains and body, you know, like now enjoys the being rich of this particular compound or material. So now I don't know whether having made a very strong compound that killed the bacteria on the inside, or, you know, like now twice as strong, boiling for 2 hours, made it potent enough now, you know, like the, what is it, the, I don't know the medical term for it, like there's a solution and then you diffuse the solution in water, and the more you diffuse, the more potent that particular compound or medicine or drug becomes, right? So maybe boiling for 2 hours generated more of that particular chemical compound or substance, right? And that eventually, you know, took care of that particular small lesion. Or maybe it's that now the brain is well supplied, well provisioned, healthy, and so on. It began to spare a lot of its efforts into the immune system. I told you that, you know, I mean, that's how I based it. I do not know. This is very conclusive. That replaces your antibiotics. But if your brain is strong enough, maybe you don't need it, right? That's that, my friends. Alhamdulillah. I don't have any doubts that this is a breakthrough and it will substitute for antibiotics, and it's natural, right? Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you, this I know, I'm not a chemist or a doctor or studied organic, you know, materials or anything else. But I know by way of logic that a cell, no matter what it is, a brain cell, a brain cell, a stomach, whatever cell that is, it consumes energy, right? It does, right? It needs to survive and thrive, so it consumes certain substance, energies, whether it's sugar or ketone or whatever it is, right? But then I know from logic, then it must have byproducts, just like us, we eat and go to the restroom, right? So cells do actually produce stuff, right? I don't know. Maybe it goes back, it's absorbed in the bloodstream, all that, it reproduces all also when a cell dies. How is it extracted from that body? So there's a system that basically there's a provisioning system, you know, the supply chain provisioning system, right? And then there's a clearing system. I know coffee and the olive oil peroxide. Now, how do I know peroxide? You know, like my ex's father or my ex-father-in-law, he used to be an olive oil dealer, and he is the one who told me that it has peroxide. I know it has acids. Is it peroxide? I believe so. He heard it from somewhere, you know. what they do is clear the traffic, right? So now when you have an inflammation, it's the body fighting those viruses and cells, and now the byproduct of dead bacteria and viruses and dead cells, and they basically pile up and jam, and that's where the inflammation is, because the battle is going on, right? And then, like Obama is fighting. Tear him up, motherfucker. so, so, so anyways, so all that becomes like the byproduct, it's overflows, right? So the skin or the lesions swells up, but the peroxide in the coffee clears it, hence allowing the immune system to be able to better handle, those pathogens, right? Or whatever it is. Sometimes it's not pathogens, sometimes it's bad elements, bad chemicals, right? Uh, I don't know. Maybe it uses that fungus in the intestine to manufacture its own antibiotic. Who knows, right? So that's that. Now, when the coffee, I boiled it like for 1 hour, it did so and so, right? Confirmed, certain. It kills bacteria. That's it, right? Just drink it. But when I boiled it for 2 hours, it became more, it became like stronger, right? It became a stronger, drug, right? Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you can reuse that ground. Don't waste that ground, because you could, as long as it is there and you boil it, it'll produce that material. You can still extract that material from it, or whatever reaction is taking place, you can do that. So it serves to kill bacteria. It also serves to clear, right? Because it and the acid and so on, they clear the scum and the byproducts of the bacteria and pathogens and so on, because as they die in the struggle, one is trying to spread and one is trying to kill it, and there's like both side immune system as well as the intruders usually begin to die in mass, right? And that's when apparently it piles up into this particular tissue or region, and then it swells up, right? It swells up maybe because of the material itself, or maybe because the body is now trying to make more traffic, divert the traffic, open up new areas, new channels to extract this dead material. I don't know, but this one will definitely clear and allow better flow of the system. I don't know. So that's that for that. If you don't boil the coffee, you're not drinking coffee, really. But boil it hard, boil it harder still, and perhaps you can reuse the ground coffee. I haven't tried to reuse my ground coffee. Like I throw it out, but definitely, you can try. Hold on, I want to show you something. Okay, so this here is one bottle of my batch. So the batch I brew on the coffee, I make 10 bottles of those. I have a pan, right, and distilled water. I usually use about maybe 1 quart size of ground coffee, real ground coffee, right? If you want to put more, you can put more. I think you can reuse it. Boil for 2 hours. Now, see, it has sediment at the bottom, right? Because when I poured out of the brew, it has a lot of groundwater and so on. So I use a strainer or a sieve to extract the water. However, the fine coffee, there's a very fine coffee powder in there that stays in. I take that as well. And if you remember, I told you about the thing that grows at the bottom, distilled water, coffee, boiled hard for 2 hours. Yet something like this, so I think you probably saw it. That clear slimy thing that forms on the bottom. That's, I don't know what that is, but I think that's a chemical compound. It's not anything else because it's purified. Uh, I think this is where it is. Right? It keeps floating around. I can't catch it or pin it down. So it's a chemical compound, a solution, if you will, because I know there's no bacteria in here. Bacteria, this thing, you can store it on the shelf for a long time. It wouldn't even spoil, right? It would not rot or spoil. And there's that thing, right? As you can see, now it's floating on the top because I shook it, right? That white thing that formed in there, I ingested as well. So that is that. This bottle is Swedish. I bought it from IKEA. And like I said, I am certain this is antibiotic, the new antibiotic. Oh, I'm certain. I'm certain. All right. And copyright. And not for personal use, of course, right? Or charity or whatever, right? But I think this with the supplement idea and practice, things are going to work out just fine. Have a nice day, my friends, and that should probably pull the other 25%. So I'm now at 75%. Really, it's not 75%. I was going to plan on doing more stuff, you know, like one thing I was going to say, how the brain rebuilds itself and so on, that I know, right? How it keeps its own structure intact, right? Or because it rebuilds it. Maybe in a future video, I don't know. My children, you're my soul. I live because of you. Have a nice day. Bye now. Salam.